This story is about Miyamoto Musashi, a masterless samurai warrior, artist and philosopher whose life became legend. The morning sun rises over Ganryu Island. Sasaki Kojiro, master of the legendary swallow cut, grips his oversized katana, a blade so long they called it the drying pole. Across him stands a wild-haired Ronin who arrived hours late, carrying nothing but a wooden sword he just carved from his boat's oar. Two warriors face each other across the empty beach, and only one of them would leave the island alive. But to understand Miyamoto Musashi, we need to have a look at the world he grew up in. Japan just emerged out of the Sengoku period, the age of the warring states. For over a century, rival warlords had torn the nation apart in constant warfare. Toyotomi Hideyoshi had unified the country, but he died only 8 years later and his heir was only 5 years old. The nation once again stood divided. The stage was set for one final decisive battle that would reshape Japan forever, the Battle of Sekigahara. And Musashi would be in the front lines, but more on that later. In Mimasaka province, a boy named Shinmen Takezō was born, the man history would remember as Miyamoto Musashi. His early life remains mysterious. He likely lost his mother at childbirth, and his father was most likely a samurai that died or left when the boy was around 7 years old. He was raised by his uncle, a Buddhist priest. Young Takezō grew up surrounded by teachings of compassion and non-violence. But the boy had other plans. At the age of 13, he faced his first test. A seasoned warrior named Arima Kihei of the Kashima Shinto Ryo school issued a public challenge. Takezō accepted. Legend says Takezō charged, struck him down and savagely bashed him with a wooden staff until he was no more. Whether this is exactly how it happened remains uncertain. But at 13 years old, Takezō had already taken someone's life. Three years later, at age 16, Takezō faced war itself as a foot soldier in the Battle of Sekigahara. The two massive armies clashed, gunfire thundered across the battleground, smoke darkened the sky, men cut each other down in the chaos, thousands were lost. This wasn't a noble duel, it was slaughter. When the dust settled, Tokugawa Ieyasu had won, establishing a shogunate that would last 250 years. It's still debated which side Takezō fought on, but he most likely was there and experienced the horrors of war. He then became a Ronin, a masterless samurai traveling Japan to test his skills. After 4 years of traveling in his early 20s, Shinmen Takezō had renamed himself Miyamoto Musashi. His methods revealed his evolving philosophy. In Kyoto, he challenged the prestigious Yoshioka school, but rather than follow tradition, Musashi employed psychological warfare. When facing the school's master, Saijuro, Musashi arrived late, forcing his opponent to wait in frustration. Before Saijuro could even complete the ceremonial preparations, Musashi struck with a devastating blow, permanently crippling his arm. When the master's brother, then Shishiro, demanded a rematch to restore family honor, Musashi went even further. This time, the encounter proved fatal for his opponent. The Yoshioka clan, now desperate, made one final challenge. Their last chance was 12-year-old Yoshioka Matashishiro. They requested an unusual nighttime meeting. But Musashi suspects a trap. What happened that night effectively ended the Yoshioka school. Historical records from Musashi's students describe it as a small battle, but the exact details remain disputed. What's certain is that young Matashishiro lost his life, and the once proud Yoshioka lineage vanished from history. But Musashi wasn't satisfied. He wanted to prove himself against the best of the best. By now, Musashi's reputation was both legendary and terrifying. Few dared to challenge him. But then he heard of Sasaki Kojiro, Japan's most refined swordsman. Kojiro was everything Musashi was not: traditional, refined, and loyal to his lord. His signature move, the swallow cut, was said to be so swift it could slice a bird from the sky. His weapon matched his reputation, an oversized katana called the drying pole, longer than any conventional blade. Here was a warrior who might truly match Musashi's skill. The stage was set for more than just a duel. It would be a legendary clash between two ways of the warrior's path. Kojiro arrived precisely on time, as honor demanded. His supporters watched from nearby boats. His legendary katana shimmered from the rising sun. But Musashi was nowhere to be seen. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. Finally, as the sun climbed higher, a lone boat approached. Musashi stepped onto the beach. Legend says he carried a rough wooden sword he'd carved from an oar during the journey. The weapon was longer than even Kojiro's famous blade. It was a brilliant strategy, but also disrespectful. Those 3 hours of waiting had done exactly what Musashi intended. They had transformed Japan's most composed swordsman into a man burning with impatience and wounded pride. The two masters faced each other on the empty beach. Kojiro's hand trembled with fury. Musashi stood perfectly still, with his sword raised. The fatal blow dropped Japan's most skilled swordsman to the ground. The master tactician walked away, victorious, but somehow different. What happened to Musashi after Ganryu Island remains one of history's great mysteries. He kept dueling, but transitioned to a less lethal fighting style, with some exceptions when insulted. He developed his own martial arts school, the Two Heavens as One style, which involved fighting with 2 swords simultaneously, something no one had successfully mastered before. He became a military strategist and architect. Records suggest he participated in the siege of Osaka Castle as a bodyguard, but no significant contributions are documented. Some say he had achieved his goals by defeating the greatest warrior in Japan. Others believe his conscience gnawed at him as he grew older and wiser. But perhaps most devastating was a personal tragedy. Musashi had adopted a son, Mikinosuke, who became a retainer to a lord. But when the lord died, Mikinosuke followed tradition and committed ritual seppuku. Perhaps the loss explains his retreat from violence. The wild Ronin was slowly becoming something else. Over the following years, Musashi's transformation continued. Yet, in 1637, despite his apparent spiritual growth, he participated in the Shimibara rebellion against Christian peasants who faced impossible taxes and persecution. Though now in his 50s, he still fought as a soldier. Perhaps true transformation is never linear. But it was in his art that his gentler side truly emerged. His paintings of birds, landscapes, and Buddhist subjects showed a sensitive side few would have expected from a warrior who fought over 60 duels and survived multiple wars. The man who had carved his name with a katana was now leaving his mark with a brush. At age 59 and suffering from severe attacks of neuralgia, Musashi moved to Raigondo, where he lived as a hermit. There, surrounded by stone and silence, he began his masterwork, the Book of 5 Rings. This wasn't just a manual of swordsmanship, it was a complete philosophy of strategy, timing, and the nature of conflict itself. Its insights about preparation, adaptability, and understanding your opponent remain relevant today. Just 2 years later, after he moved, Miyamoto Musashi died peacefully in his retreat. Perhaps what makes Musashi unforgettable is not his victories, but his contradictions. What do you think made Musashi change? Let me know in the comments. Next time we'll explore another legendary figure who fought not for personal glory but to defend her people. The Celtic queen Boudica, who united ancient enemies and burned Roman cities to the ground. Don't miss it and subscribe for more legendary tales of the makers of history.